Ah, hello. I'm Thal Smith, and today I'm just going to do a live reading of a book, hopefully beginning the end without stopping. It's a small book, so it shouldn't take too long to read all the way through. Um, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I just felt like doing it. So, anyways, the book itself is called "You Will Not Have My Hate," which sounds like a very um, depressing read, but I'm going to read it. So I don't know what it's gonna be like. It's first time. We just see how it goes. So yeah, here we go. One night in hell. November 13th, 10:37 p.m. Melville fell asleep without a murmur, as he usually does when his mama isn't there. He knows that with Papa, the lullabies are not as soft and the hugs not as warm, so he doesn't expect too much. To keep myself awake until she gets home, I read the story of a novelist turned detective who discovers that a novelist turned murderer did not actually write the novel that made him want to become a novelist. After twist upon twist, I find out that the novelist turned murderer did not actually murder anyone. Much ado about nothing. My phone, lying on the bedside table, buzzes, and I read the text. Hey, everything okay? Are you at home? I don't want to be disturbed. I hate those text messages that don't really say anything. I don't reply. Everything okay? And then there's a dot, dot, dot. Are you safe? What's that supposed to mean, safe? I put the book down and rushed to the living room on tiptoes. Did not wake the baby, grabbed the remote. A box of horrors takes forever to come on. Live! Terrorist attack at the Stade de France. The images tell me nothing, I think, about Helene. I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry if that's wrong. Helen. Let's just go with Helen. It's easier to pronounce, but probably like Helene. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm just gonna pronounce it. Anyway, I should call her. Tell her it would be a good idea to take a taxi home. But there is something else. In the corridors of the stadium, some people stand frozen in front of the screen. I do not see the images on that screen, only the expressions on people's faces. They look appalled. They are watching something that I can't see. Not yet. Then, at the bottom of my screen, the news on the ticker that slides past too fast suddenly stops. The end of innocence. Terrorist attack at the Vatican. I believe that's how you pronounce that again. Apologies. Anyway, well, not anyways. I'm getting back to this. The sound cuts out. All I can hear is the noise of my heart trying to burst out of my chest. Those 5 words seem to echo endlessly in my head. 1 second lasts a year of silence, sitting there on my couch. It must be a mistake. I checked. That is where she went. Maybe I got it mixed up or forgot. Correct, but the concert really was at the Vatican. Helen is at the Vatican. The picture cuts out. I can't see anything now, but I feel an electric shock go through my body. I want to run outside, to steal the car, to go out and look for her. The only thing in my head now is the burning sense of urgency. Only movement can put out those flames. But I am paralyzed because Melville is with me. I am trapped here, condemned to watch as the fire spreads. I want to scream, but it's impossible. Do not wake the baby. I grab my phone. I have to call her, talk to her, hear her voice. Contacts Helen, just Helen. I never changed her name in my contacts list, never added my love, a photo of the two of us, neither did she. The call she never received that night was from Anthony L. It rings out, goes to voicemail. I hang up, I call again, once, twice, 100 times, however many it takes. I feel suffocated by this couch that seems to be swallowing me up. The whole apartment is collapsing in on me at each unanswered call. I sink a little deeper into the ruins. Everything looks unfamiliar. The world around me fades. There is nothing left but her and me. A phone call from my brother brings me back to reality. Helen is there. In the moment when I pronounce these words, I realize there's no way out. My brother and sister come to our apartment. No one knows what to say. There's nothing to say. There's no name for this. In the living room, the TV is on. We wait, eyes riveted, to the 24-hour news channels. channels, which have already begun competing to come up with the most lurid, grotesque headline, the one that will keep us watching spectators to a world that is falling apart. Massacre, carnage, bloodbath. I turn off the TV before the word slaughter could be uttered. The window on the world is closed. Reality. N's wife calls me. He was at the Vatican with Helen. He's safe. I call him. He doesn't answer. Once, twice, 3 times. Finally, he picks up. He says he doesn't know where she is. Helen's mother joins us. I have to act. Do something. I need to go outside quickly so I can find her. So I can escape the army of unspoken words that have invaded my living room. My brother clears the way for me. Without a word, he picks up his car keys. We confer and whispers. Close the door quietly behind us. Do not wake the baby. The ghost hunts him in. There's silence in the car and the city around us too. From time to time, the painful screams of a siren disturb the hush that has descended on Paris. The party is over. The fanfare is ended. We go to all the major hospitals, anywhere that might be taking in the wounded. Bika, St. Louis, again, I apologize for the pronunciation. I'm doing best I can to. Salatiera, George's, Video. Anyways, that's last week. Anyways, let me start saying that word. This is how I've heard it going before, personally. I mean, live. I've done a lot of reading, generally, myself. That night, death has spread to all 4 corners of France's capital. One of its ticket sellers awaits me at each stop. I'm looking for my wife. She was at the Vatican. Her name is not on any of the lists, but each time they give me what I'm looking for, a new reason to keep going. Not all the wounded have been identified yet. They're taking survivors at Big too. Big shit? Some of them have even been taken to hospitals in the suburbs. I leave my cell number, knowing that they will not call me back. Run to the car. I miss the silence of the road. The streetlights speed past by the side of the beltway. The night deepens. Each light brings me one step closer to hypnosis. My body is no longer mine. My mind is on the road. If I keep going around and around this too tight belt that suffocates the city in its grip, something will eventually happen. Even when there was nothing left to look for, we kept going. I needed to escape, to get away as far as possible, not to turn back, to keep going to the end of the road, to see if there is an end to it, an end to all of this. I saw it at the end of the road. It shone from the screen of my cell phone when my alarm went off, 7 o'clock in the morning. In half an hour, Melville will drink from his bottle. He must still be sleeping. A baby's sleep uncluttered by the horrors of the world. Time to go home. Take the Porte de Severa's exit. Waiting. November 14th, 8 p.m. Melville waits. He waits to be big enough to reach the light switch in the living room. He waits to be well-behaved enough to go out without a stroller. He waits for me to make his dinner before I read him a story. He waits for bath time, for lunchtime, for snack time. And tonight he waits for his mother to come home before he goes to bed. Waiting is a feeling without a name. As I read him one last story, it brings all of them at the same time. It's distress, hope, sadness, relief, surprise, dread. I wait, too, to be sentenced. A few angry men have delivered their verdict with automatic gunfire. For us, it will be a life sentence, but I still don't know that. We sing a song before bedtime. I tell myself she will come through the bedroom door and join us for the last couplet. I tell myself she will finally call. I tell myself we are going to wake up soon. Melville falls asleep. The telephone rings. It's Helen's sister. Anthony, I'm so sorry. The Ladybug. November 15th, 5 p.m. After the walk, it's time for Melville to settle down. Later will be bath time, supper time, and then finally bedtime. Today I can tell he is annoyed. His pain, still speechless, shows through in every little worry of his infant life. The cookie is too soft, he doesn't want to eat it. The ball has rolled too far, he doesn't want to play anymore. The straps on his stroller are too tight, he doesn't want to stay in there. He struggles with everything jostling inside him, everything that he doesn't understand, an unspeakable turmoil that robs him of the innocent curiosity of a little boy. What is this feeling that makes him want to cry when he's not hungry, not in pain, not afraid? He misses his mother. She hasn't come home for 2 days now. She'd never been away for more than a single evening before. To soothe him, I sent him to find a book from his bedroom. His bookshelf is low enough for him to reach the books himself, populated with characters named after the feelings that embody Mr. Happy, Mr. Silly, Mr. Grumpy. There's also an elephant who really wants to grow up, a little cloth mouse into which I fit my finger, and who page after page tries to escape the cat chasing it. Finally, the mouse hides in a flower pot and asks for a goodnight kiss, which Melville never refuses it. Today, smiling his six-toothed smile, he returns from his mission with a book that he likes to read with his mother. It is the story of a pretty little ladybug in an enchanted garden. All the insects who gather nectar there admire the ladybug because she is so good-hearted. She is the prettiest and kindest of all the bugs. Her mamma is so proud of her. But one day the little ladybug lands by chance on the hooked nose of an evil witch. Melville has never known that the witch turns this sweet ladybug into a nasty ladybug. Concerned that he might be scared by them, Helen always skipped those pages where the flying red and black beetle with a spider and a toad for accomplices terrorized the usually tranquil garden. The ladybug that Melville heard about every night never landed on the witch's nose. Snug in his bed, he only saw the good fairy who, with a wave of her magic wand, made the little insect beautiful and kind again. Today I skipped those pages too, but when I see the fairy appear in their dream blue, star-covered dress, smiling the serene smile of one who already knows how the story ends, I suddenly stop. Melville would not be able to skip these pages of his life the way he skipped the pages of the story. I have no magic wand. Our little ladybug landed on the witch's nose. The witch had a... it's gonna be hard to pronounce. Kalashnikov? Kalashnikov. Again, apologize for this pronunciation. I'm trying. And death at its fingertip. I have to tell him. Now. But how? Mama, Papa, milk. Melville can only say 3 words, but he understands everything. Yet, if I sit down with him and say, Mama's had a serious accident. She won't ever be able to come home. That would be using adult words to tell him a grown-up story. He wouldn't be able to grasp what it means to him beyond those words. It would be like killing her a second time. Words are not enough. He gets annoyed, stamps his feet, throws his books on the floor. He's about to have a meltdown. I pick up my phone to play the songs that he listens to with his thumb in his mouth, wrapping himself around her like an affectionate little boa constrictor. I hold him against my body, trap him between my legs so he can feel me, understand me. He spent 9 months inside his mother, listening to her live. Her heartbeat was the rhythm of his days. Her movements were his journey. Her words, the music of his nascent life. I want him to hear, his ear to my chest, my voice telling him my sorrow. I want him to feel my muscles tense by the gravity of this moment. I want the beating of my heart to reassure him. Life will go on. On the phone, I find the playlist that his mother put together for him and hit play. She handpicked every single song as if each one were sort of a musical bridge between his baby's ears and the harmonies of the grown-up world. Henry Salvador and his chanson Douse rubbed shoulders with François Hardy's Temps de Temps de l'Amour, an ode to the Moonlights Up, Recluse of Frederick by Bourvil. At the first notes of this song play, I open the photos folder. Her face appears, blurred, badly framed, but that is all it takes to jolt Melville from the fragile calm produced by the opening words of the song. It's time to sleep now, my little Frederick. I found this music that I give you like present. at the bottom of your cradle. Immediately he points an anxious finger toward her and then turns to me. Her smile turned upside down, or his smile turned upside down, and warm tears welling in his eyes. I break down and I explain to him as best I can that his mama will not be able to come home, that she had a serious accident. That's not her fault. She would have loved to be with him, but she can't anymore. He cries like I've never seen him cry before. He's shed a few tears before, of course, out of pain, fear, disappointment, tantrums. But this is something else altogether. This is his first real sorrow, the first time he's ever felt true sadness. The photographs flash up one by one, and the music starts to sting. We are like two children leaning over a music box that plays the tune of our life, crying our little hearts out. It's normal that you feel sad. You're allowed to be sad. Papa is sad too. Whenever you feel like this, come to see me. I will look at the photos. The song ends. Don't forget this music that I gave you one day with all my love. The memories slowly take away some of the hurt. The parade of photographs becomes a game. That's Melville. That's Mama. It doesn't matter. We'll have to talk about it again soon anyway. The tale of the little ladybug ends when, having once again become the prettiest ladybug in the garden, she finds her mama, who cries with joy at seeing her little girl again. Telling him is only the first step on the long path that awaits us. The witch is gone, but now I must explain to him, every time he needs to hear it, why his mama will not be waiting for him at the end of his story. I tear the page out of the book and pin it to the wall of his bedroom next to a photograph of her. Melville is holding on to her shoulders while he lies on her back. Her smile is like a flash of spring sunshine. A lock of hair falls over his eyes. She is looking at me, no pose, no lens. Her eyes speak directly to me, and they tell me about the simple joys of those 17 months we spent together, the three of us. It could have been November 16th, 9:30 a.m. Melville is at daycare. It's Monday morning at a bar in the 15th arrondissement. People have gray faces and broken dreams. The television is turned to BFM, and all available eyes are glued to the screen looking for something to talk about. Now that the usual conversation topics, rising taxes, the flu, are worn out, it's Monday, but no one can talk about anything but last Friday. A double espresso. I have to go to see Helen this morning at the police mortuary. Next to me, two men, aged between 45 and 50, with the wary eyes of those who've seen too much, are discussing what I don't want to hear. There is no way to avoid a conversation when you sit at the bar. It just happens to you. This would normally be a pleasure to sit alone and with the time it takes to drink a coffee to overhear these bits and pieces of other people's lives. But today, it is my life that is in bits and pieces. Even though I turn away, trying not to hear, a few words reach me through the hissing steam of the espresso machine. Can't let all those people die for nothing. Does anyone ever really die for anything? It could have been a reckless driver who forgot to brake, a tumor that was slightly more malignant than the others, or a nuclear bomb. The only thing that matters is that she's no longer here. Guns, bullets, violence, all of this is just background noise to the real tragedy now taking place: absence. Not many people understand how I can so quickly get over the circumstances in which Helen was killed. People ask me if I've forgotten or forgiven. I forgive nothing. I forget nothing. I am not getting over anything, and certainly not so quickly. When everyone else has gone back to his or her life, we will still be living with this. The story is our story. To refuse it would be to betray it. Even if her disfigured body is corpse cold, even if her kiss tastes like still warm blood, and even if what she whispers into my ear has the chilling beauty of a funeral requiem, I have to hold her to me. I have to be part of this story. Of course, having a culprit, someone to take the brunt of your anger, is an open door, a chance to temporarily escape your suffering, and the more odious the crime, the more ideal the culprit, the more legitimate your hatred. You think about him in order not to think about yourself. You hate him in order not to hate what's left of your life. You rejoice at his death in order not to have to smile to those who remain. Perhaps these are aggravating circumstances, to say the least, but aggravating circumstances are for trials, as a way of quantifying loss. But people do not count their tears, and they certainly don't dry them on the sleeves of their anger. Those with no one to blame are alone with their grief. I am one of them, alone with my son, who will soon ask me what happened that night. What would I be telling him if I placed the responsibility for the circumstances of our life at someone else's feet? If it was to those men that he had to turn in order to make sense of things, death awaited his mother that night. They were merely ambassadors. With a burst of machine gun fire, they shattered our puzzle, and after we have put it back together piece by piece, it will no longer be the same. There will be someone missing in the picture. There will be only the two of us. But we will take up the whole picture. She will be with us, invisible, but there. It is in our eyes that you will read her presence, in our joy that her flame will burn, in our veins that her tears will flow. We will never return to our life before, but we will not build a life against them. We will not. We will move forward in our own life. Another double espresso, please, and the check. Crazy, what happened, isn't it? One of the men says. I haven't had time to think about it, really. My wife was in round this weekend and had my baby with me, but I'm going to see her now. Seeing her again. November 16th, 10 a.m. They should hand out fluorescent vests to everyone I want to avoid. The psychological support staff are wearing them this morning, which makes my task easier. I don't want to talk to them. I have the impression they want to steal from me, to take my misery and apply a balm formulaic phrase that will leave me insipid, watered down, without poetry, without beauty. So I map out the premises, color-coded blue police, so I can get through, fluorescent yellow, psychological support staff to avoid, black mortuary staff, so I can see her again. I head toward someone in blue, who leads me to someone in black, who suggests I go to see someone in fluorescent yellow. I pretend not to hear what he says. I am accompanied by Helen's mother and sister. It takes forever to get there. A few yards are like an eternity. Long needles of icy rain streak our faces. Every person I see follows the script to the letter. An actor in a play repeated over and over again, a mournful vaudeville, a worn-out comedy. Death is on the playbill today, and yet this walk is not a funeral procession. It isn't time for that. This is a happy day, the return of a loved one. Inside the building, the tiles look old and shabby. So do the employees' faces. It's cold since arriving. I have been asked a dozen times if I would like to sit down. Each time I refuse out of fear that I won't be able to get up again. I wait, standing up. Protocols, paperwork. Families come and go. About 15 enter before us. All reemerge in pieces. You've come to see Luna Helen Newell. Newell? Again, I'm sorry about the mispronunciation of names. My bad. Trying best. Anyways, not. It's our turn. The room where we are led is more warmly decorated. Death's waiting room is not as I imagined it, and yet behind the polished boards that cover the room's walls from floor to ceiling, I hear the blood of the dead flowing. From one moment to the next, I imagine it seeping through the wood paneling and slowly flooding the room, climbing from our feet to our heads, drowning us in a bloodbath. In truth, we are drowning already. The young woman speaks to us. She had done this 1,000 times before. I can hear it in her voice. Difficult moments, terrible circumstances, police work. All these words sound worn out. A second-hand compassion. Her silences are calculated, her gestures prepared, her smile looks like it's straight from the illustrated mortician's handbook. Chapter 5. Talking to the family. I am just one among so many others. I only half listen to her. Helen is there, just next door. I can sense her. I would like to see her alone. Helen's mother and sister understand. They know that, even here, it is the two of us, first of all, together for this final moment, just her and me. Not someone's daughter or sister or best friend, not the woman who was killed at the Bataclan. I want her to be mine and mine alone, as she was before. We were like two little Lego bricks that fitted together perfectly, made for each other. Our once upon a time began one June 21st with music at a concert. As always happens at the start of the great stories, I thought she wouldn't want someone like me. I thought she was too beautiful, too Parisian? I believe it's Parisian, yeah. Too sophisticated, too everything, for nobody like me. I took her hand. We were swallowed up by the crowd and the noise. Until the next moment, I thought she would escape me, then we kissed. Afterward, it all happened very fast. I told her we would go to New York. That time belonged to us, and my lucky star would guide us. She told me she loved me. A love story like any other. We were just sane enough to realize how lucky we were, and crazy enough to gamble everything on it. That love was our treasure. The door opens. Let me know when you're ready. She is there. I move toward her, turn around, check that we are alone. The moment is ours. A pane of plexiglass separates us. I press on it with all my weight. Our life together flashes before my eyes. I feel as though I never had another life. Helen was the moon, a brunette with milk-white skin, eyes that made her look like a frightened owl, a smile you could fit the whole world inside. I remember her smile on our wedding day. But the most beautiful moments of our lives are not those we stick in photograph albums. I remember all those moments when we just took the time to love each other, seeing an old couple wanting to be like them, a burst of laughter, an empty morning, lounging in the comfort of our sheets. It is the most insignificant moments where there is nothing to show, nothing to tell. They are the most beautiful. Those are the ones that fill my memory. She is just as beautiful as she always was. When you close a dead person's eyes, you give them back a little bit of life. She looks like the woman I watched wake up each morning. I want to lie next to her languorous body, warm her up, tell her she is the most beautiful woman I ever met. I want to close my eyes too and wait for Melville to call out to us, wait for him to start tangling himself up in our crumbled sheets. Helen often asked me if love could be shared, if after the arrival of our child I would still love her as much. After his birth, she never asked that question again. I cry, I talk to her. I would like to stay another hour, at least a day, perhaps a lifetime, but I must leave her. The moon must set. Today, November 16, the sun rises on our new once upon a time, the story of a father and a son who go on living alone, without the aid of the star to whom they swore allegiance. Monsieur, it is time to leave her. The music can begin. November 16th, 11 a.m. I have just come out of the mortuary. It did me good to see her. For 2 days she was alone in the deep night that the terrorists had brought down on Paris. The city of light was extinguished at the same moment that her eyes were closed. Such big eyes that saw the world in its entirety. Such big eyes that will never see her son get up again. Since coming out of the mortuary, I have only one thought in my head. Going to see Melville at the daycare. Finding him and telling him that I saw his mother and I brought her with me. I brought him back his mama. She's not lost anymore. She is in the palm of my hand, and she will come home with us. But I must have a coffee with Helen's family to talk about what happens next, the funeral, the police, the psychological support, all those bureaucratic irritations that pollute grief. You imagine your grief as something pure, free of all material contingencies, but the reality of a burial quickly takes over. You don't even have time to take stock of what has happened to you before the parade of sorries in black suits has already begun. You have to go to the funeral home. If you want, I can help you. Silence. Since Friday evening, I had practically lost the ability to speak. Sentences of more than 3 words tired me out. I was exhausted by the idea of putting words together, of putting thoughts into words. In any case, I was incapable of thinking. In my head, there was her, whom I hadn't seen again, and him, whom I had to look after, and that buzzing noise that scrambled all the rest. I responded with silence, even to simple questions. At best, some people were answered with grunts of varying lengths and tones, sounds that they had to decipher to understand if I was hungry, if I wanted them to stay with me tonight, if I wanted a light for my cigarette. Since seeing her today, the buzzing has started to fade and my tongue to loosen. You'll have to be careful not to get ripped off. Compare prices. We can come with you if you want. I'll take care of it on my own. Some people take advantage of others dying to try to scam their relatives. Time to go. I have to pick up the baby. We are in the car on the way back when it begins. My brother-in-law, who's driving us, sees my foot frantically tapping the floor of the car, and says reassuringly, "You'll have to get to the daycare on time, don't worry." You'll get to the daycare on time, don't worry. It is not the stress of being late that dictates these movements. It is the words imposing their rhythm, one after another, or all at the same time. They go in, some come out, some clash, those that remain call to others, and each one begins to play a few notes, like the moments before an orchestra starts to play. You hear scattered sounds, dissonant, random, and then suddenly the notes blend together and climb up your spine, louder and louder, until absolute silence, the music can begin. I'm happy to see him again. My smile as I open the door of the daycare collides with an army of embarrassed faces and dangling arms. He stands there in the middle of what looks like a Napoleonic legion during a retreat from Russia. Melville was the only one that day who could respond to my smile with a smile, the only one that day who saw that I had his mamma with me. We go home on the path that he adores, the one where we see the most road signs, which are one of the things he's passionate about, along with books, music, and the obsessive closing of doors. He lifts up his arms. No parking. He lifts them again less than 50 feet later, another no parking, and so on. House, lunch, diaper, pajamas, nap, computer. The words continue to arrive. They come on their own, considered, weighed, but without me having to summon them. They come to me. All I have to do is pluck them from the air. I choose each one, brought them together, separated them sometimes, and after a few minutes, as an intermediary, the letter is there. You will not have my hate. I hesitate for a while before posting it. Then my brother forces me to do what I have not done for 2 days. Lunch is ready. Come and eat. No time to think about it. No desire to come back to it. Facebook, through which I'm communicating with some of Helen's friends, whose phone numbers I don't have, is open in the next tab. What's on your mind? It asks. Copy, paste, post. My words no longer belong to me. You will not have my hate. On Friday night, you stole the life of an exceptional being, the love of my life, the mother of my son, but you will not have my hate. I don't know who you are, and I don't want to know. You are dead souls. That God, for whom you blindly kill, made us in his image. Each bullet in my wife's body will have been a wound in his heart. So no, I will not give you the satisfaction of hating you. This is what you want, but to respond to your hate with anger would be to yield to the same ignorance that made you what you are. You want me to be scared, to see my fellow citizens through suspicious eyes, to sacrifice my freedom for security. You have failed. I will not change. I saw her this morning. At last, after days and nights of waiting, she was as beautiful as she was when she went out on Friday evening, as beautiful as when I fell madly in love with her more than 12 years ago. Of course, I am devastated by grief. I grant you that small victory, but it will be short-lived. I know she will be with us every day, and that we will see each other in the paradise of free souls to which you will never have access. There are only two of us, my son and myself, but we are stronger than all the armies of the world. Anyway, I don't have any more time to waste on you, as I must go to see Melville, who is just waking up from his nap. He is only 17 months old. He will eat his snack, as he does every day. Then he will play as we do every day, and all his life this little boy will defy you by being happy and free, because you will not have his hate either. The Master of Time. November 17th, 10:45 a.m. The doorbell rings. I am not expecting anyone. I look through the peephole. There's a man at the door. His ears stick out. That is the only distinguishing feature of his face. His eyes, his mouth, his nose, all the rest seem to have been deliberately designed to allow him to go about unnoticed. He is somehow everyone and no one at the same time. I open the door. Hello, monsieur? He is dressed in a worn gray uniform, a clipboard in his right hand, with a sheet of paper clipped to it. I look him up and down, indifferent. He stares at me, slightly embarrassed. Then finally he says, I've come to read the electric meter. I should have remembered the letter warning me of this visit. Helen stuck it to our fridge, and I walk past the fridge several times a day, but recently I've been blind in the world. Can I come in? I thought that if the moon ever disappeared, the sea would retreat so no one would see it crying. I thought the winds would stop dancing, that the sun would not want to rise again. Nothing of the kind. The world continues to turn, and the meters must be read. Silently, I move out of the way, watch him walk ahead of me. He enters our apartment with his big, clumpy boots, his stride of the living. I do not tell him where the meter is. He knows what to do. He has already done it 10 times today, maybe 1,000 times this week. It's all he has done his whole life. I watch him work from a distance. I want to tell him that this is not a good time. He's not welcome here. He has just screamed into my ears that in the world outside life goes on, and I don't want to hear that. Since Friday, the only master of time has been Melville. He is the conductor of the symphony of our days, waking, eating, napping, snacking. No matter what time it is, he decides when the universe must rise, and I adapt in order to keep his world intact. Every day I play the same melody, keeping time with his metronome, taking care not to miss a single note. Get up, hug, breakfast, play, go for a walk, music, lunch, stories, hug, nap, get up again, snack, go for another walk, shopping, music, bath, dinner, stories, hug, sleep. It is the only way I have found to tell him that life continues regardless. Clinging to our habits is a way of shutting out the terrible and the wonderful, the horror of that night and the compassion that followed at its heels. The wound and the bandages that people wanted to heal it with, neither has any place in our already full little life. Neither has any place, in our full, okay, excuse me. Sometimes the barriers fall, quietly behind, come on, it's time for your snack. Melville detects the hint of a repressed sob. My heart is beating too fast. He knows that Papa is sad. He sees the gaping hole appear in our life. An invisible monster comes out to drag us down there. We cry slowly, the hole closes up. We're still here. The orchestra conductor and his soloist. I don't know. Our little carousel goes round and round every day endlessly. That man checking the meter in the kitchen is false note. I watch him, waiting for the moment when he will realize he is out of tune. He just carefully notes down the numbers of a sheet of paper. I want to throw him out, but I don't do anything of the kind. I stay in the doorway and bow down before the world as it continues to turn before life which enters our apartment in spite of my wishes, before those strangers who remind me that I have no choice, that I am still alive. That's it, monsieur. All done. The door closes behind him. The music is in tune once again. Time to pick up Melville from daycare. Homemade meals. November 18th, 11:30 a.m. The daycare manager pulls me aside before Melville and I can escape, pacifier in his mouth, cigarette in mine. Salome's mama brought some homemade soup for you. Since Helen died, strangers from all over the world have offered to look after my son. We've been invited to go on vacations every continent on the planet. We've been sent socks, a hat, gifts, and checks that I've never deposited. The other daycare mothers moved into action on Tuesday morning, still whole in their maternity. They cannot bear to imagine us, two poor young guys, alone in a big house without Mama. They have found a way to help us without Melville or I having anything to say about it. Every day when I open the door of the daycare center, I hear, "Who's Mama?" "I'm Melville's Papa." And because our children are at the same age, because they know how hard it is to raise a baby, because they know the ties that bind a mother to her children, what they see in me is the man, the Papa who will never be a Mama, the man who will never manage alone with a baby. I see concern in their eyes. Where everyone else imagines me as a super Papa, they know that I'm a single Papa. Shall I put it in the back? I expect to see her see a little glass jar. Instead, she takes a gigantic Tupperware box from the fridge. filled to the brim with carrot potato squash soup blended with care. Tomorrow, Yana's mama will bring you something. That was how it began. We went home, the two of us, with our gigantic box of soup. The next day, when I picked up Melville, I was handed another Tupperware, this time filled with carrot pumpkin spinach soup. Then the brigade of mothers mobilized. Too many offers for the little belly of the 17-month-old boy. They had to get organized, each one taking her turn. On Tuesday, coming out of the daycare center, I had not one, but two little glass pots in my bag. Manin's mama had meticulously covered the first with a little square of cloth on which she had written the soup's ingredients: carrot, pumpkin, green bean. Around the second, she had noted on a sheet of paper puree of broccoli, potatoes, corn, garlic, and ground lamb. She must have started over several times, carefully choosing the color of the lids and the little elastic bands that hold the menus in place, as if everything she wanted to give me, overflowed from this too small pot and ended up in this origami bird that she left inside the bag. As if she had wanted to be there at the moment when I opened it, as if she had wanted to make sure that even after that, my insides were looked after. Bon appetit, Melville, from Manon and her mama. Friday's pot is from Victor's mama. Her specialty is the lightly caramelized apple pear compote, I believe that's how you pronounce that, compote. Inside the bag next to his meal is a note bearing words of comfort. Dear Anthony and Melville, you can count on me. Friday is also the day when I am supposed to return the containers. The daycare manager, who is in charge of planning the meal schedule, explains how things work to me. Everything must be washed, dried, and put in little bags, which I will pick up again on Monday when I leave the daycare center with Melville. So things were organized like that. Without a word from me, the daycare mothers got together to ensure that every day Melville ate meals made with a mama's love. When Helen was pregnant, we swore we would be the best parents in the world. We settled for being good parents, in particular, abandoning our culinary ambitions. Melville got used to supermarket meals. The first spoonful of soup made by Salome's mama ended up on the floor. Second spoon, pajamas. Third spoon, wall. That'll be the last. Melville never ate a single one of those homemade meals. I emptied the Tupperware boxes into the sink after washing them. I took them back and told them that Melville had eaten it all. Did Melville like his soup? After a little nod of affirmation, slightly embarrassed by my white lie, I made sure to give a big smile of someone well fed, which pleased them. Yes, he ate every last mouthful. And Melville at the moment gave a little cry of disgust. I let them keep this little game going as long as they need to. They wanted to give a little of a mother's love to a child who was missing it so badly, and I took it. What did it matter if he actually ate the soup or not? I also understood that my son, although he would never have his own mother's love, would be given tenderness by all these others in little pots full of puree. I didn't have the courage to tell them that Melville never tasted their homemade meals, and that the little pots could not stay in our house. Maybe this is because even while still full, sitting on the dresser, those pots nourished our hearts with a sweet maternal tenderness. N, with a dot at the end, is like N. See, that's the next one. N. November 19th, 9 p.m. N wrote to me tonight. We haven't talked since I told him about Helen's death. He wants to see me. I wait for him at a table on a terrace. Around me, the usual hubbub of a Parisian cafe on a weeknight, as before. I spot his figure at the corner of the street. He is limping. He has a wound in his buttock, a souvenir of Friday's horror. I put on a suitable facial expression, then immediately change my mind. I don't want to play that game. I take him in my arms. His is the biggest smile I have seen since Friday, a smile that cannot help but say, I'm alive. Yes, he is alive. He sits down and almost immediately begins to tell me all about it. The start of the concert, the beer at the bar, the crowded mosh pit, and then the gunfire, the noises, the smells, the bodies. He doesn't spare me a single detail. He can't stop. He forces me to watch on, fast forward the movie that stole my life from me. I called him that night 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. Probably while it was happening, probably after. And when at last he picked up, I just wanted him to tell me that she was okay, that everything was okay, that she was with him, that maybe she was wounded, but she would survive. I wanted him to tell me that they'd been able to escape and run through the Parisian night. I imagined I could already hear the nervous laughter of two survivors. I waited for him to wake me from my nightmare. I can't tell you anything. A silence as heavy as the words he speaks to me now, at this cafe, and with that silence, the horizon of doubt spread all over, the darkest despair and the craziest hope. Helen at once dead and alive. Now I know. So between two events in the story, of which he is the hero, I realize why he didn't tell me that night that she had died in his arms. I realize he is not yet the survivor I see. He is still there, trapped in that scene that is still being played. And when he apologizes for not having been able to tell me, I don't blame him. In his movie, the characters don't die, but this is not his movie. That night, November 13th, is a story of a moon that will never rise again. He doesn't know it yet. Minute after minute, I become the story he is telling. I note the setting, commit it to memory. I know that Melville will soon ask me how Mama died. I know he will want to know everything. So I stay calm. I listen quietly, a spectator to the tragedy of my life that has already begun, which did not wait for its narrator. When he has finished, we talk about this and that, trying to pretend that everything was not collapsed. We talk about his wound, about Melville's naps, about his shop, which he had reopened. Suddenly, everything feels so normal, almost happy, and for a moment it is as if we are teenagers again. The beer glasses are empty. We promise never to leave each other's lives. Stay strong. November 20th, 10:10 a.m. Now, when people ask me, how are you? They don't expect the usual formulaic response, fine, and you? The tacit authorization, okay, to move on to another subject of conversation because everything is fine. With me, everyone knows that everything is not fine, that after I give my response, we will not move on to today's weather, last night's TV show, or the latest office gossip. Today, when I am asked, how are you, the delivery is slower, the R elongated to draw out the question and delay a potentially embarrassing silence. The person's head leans generally to the right, one eyebrow is raised, generally the left, and the person's mouth is pursed, as if to say, I'm ready to hear everything. Then there is the look that attempts to dive inside me like a child's hand dives into a candy jar, hoping to grab right at the bottom his favorite pink one. For me, the pink candy is my grief. People want to meet me, talk to me, touch me. I am a totem, assessed, measured, quantified, as if there were a Richter scale of sadness, and they felt sure that, with me, they were facing the big one. One of those massive earthquakes that happen only 1 to 5 times a century, magnitude 9, description devastating, effects mass destruction of areas over a radius of more than 600 miles around the epicenter. So I try to give a reply as conventional as fine and you, a reply that has the double advantage of ending, before it has even begun, the diagnosis of my emotional state and giving back the initiative in the conversation to the person who started it. I ended up with a default option of as well as can be expected, which allowed me to descend one step on the scale, magnitude 8, description major, effects considerable damage of all buildings up to dozens of miles from the epicenter, but that is not enough. So I give a reassuring smile, the same for everyone, lips closed, one corner of my mouth lifting only slightly, the other a little bit more, my eyes creased, the effect is immediate, magnitude 7, description very strong, effects may cause severe damage over a vast area near the epicenter, only adapted buildings will survive. Mine, as well as can be expected, is one of those buildings. It is that little hut that is photographed after the catastrophe, the one that is left miraculously standing while everything around it is in ruins. It may not be much to look at, but it's still there. I keep keep up appearances. I take the other person by the hand and reassure him by showing this cardboard city that acts as the set for the movie of my life that I let people see. The streets are clean, the inhabitants is peaceful, life seems to go on as normally as possible, but the buildings are only facades. The inhabitants merely extras, and behind the apparent normality there is nothing, nothing at all, except perhaps this anxiety. What will happen when everyone has moved on to another movie? Will I be alone here in my abandoned set? I'm truly sorry for everything that's happened. Stay strong. I don't have a ready-made response for that. See you soon is a promise. Take care of yourself, an invitation, but stay strong is a life sentence. After trying to relieve me of the weight of this grief during the time it takes to have a conversation, the other person hands it back to me, intact, two little words that reduce my sincere to ashes. Most conversations end like that. The facades fall to the ground, the extras leave the set, and I am unmasked. The fingertip. November 21st, 5:30 p.m. 5:30 in the afternoon is a wretched time of day, a stray, pointless hour, the one we would like to erase. The walk is over, dinner is not yet ready, Melville is too excited to play, I am too tired to be attentive, we are bored, we avoid each other, gauge each other's mood. Who will give in first? We wish that time would speed up. 6:30 at last. Bath time. Our faces light up when I proudly announce this. Bath time is a moment we love to share. Melville is a little fish in an aquarium. I'm the boy who sticks his nose to the glass to watch him swimming. Sometimes I dip my fingers in the water to play. He comes to the surface to nibble them and wriggles with pleasure. The day's worries sink quickly to the bottom of the tub, creating a silt of fears, tears, and vexations that whirl down the drain with the bathwater. Without her, it is not the same. This was a moment for the three of us, a ritual. I held Mobile tight while Helen washed him. Afterward, we played, sang, and sloshed and splashed around. We laughed. Today, we don't laugh so much. We act as if all this still had some meaning without her. Sometimes I even half expected her to tell myself that she will open the bathroom door and join us, start singing again. Time to count out. My little fish squirms in my arms. He is upset. She was the one who took care of him when he came out of the bathtub. In a delicately choreographed dance, her hands slid over his shameless little body. He wriggled his toes with happiness at being cuddled like that. She put her nose on his navel, which had been their link. He laughed like he did when he was tickled. She brushed his hair like a little girl brushing her doll's hair. His chest swelled with pride at all of this attention she lavished on him. At the end of this dance, the two partners left each other with a kiss. Tonight, I learn a new step. I have to cut his fingernails. I have never done it before, and this time I cannot wait for Helen to return. I sit him on my lap. He doesn't flinch. With his little hand in mine, I move the scissors closer, unsure which finger to start with. He fidgets impatiently. I cut the first nail. A cry pierces the silence. I took at him to reassure myself. He looks at me, surprised. I was the one who cried out. I've cut off the tip of his thumb. I shouldn't have started with the thumb. I felt something jamming the blade, but kept pressing. I examined his hand. In fact, it's a bit of skin that I cut off. His thumb, which I imagined amputated, is intact, but the tip is skinned, raw. It's not bleeding. I put his thumb in my mouth. I feel as if it's his heart beating between my lips, a little heart, doubly wounded. What if he thought I wanted to hurt him? That I did it on purpose? What if he was afraid of me now? Instinctively I turn around, look for her. She is not there to reassure me, not there to guide me, not there to take over for me. Vertigo, solitude. There's only me, and I still have 9 nails to go. I feel ashamed. I feel so small, like a child who wanted to play at being Papa, but who didn't know the rules. But this is a grown-up's game, and I have lost. I cut his thumb. I want to give up, to climb under the bed and hide. I long for those arms in which I too could cry, for those arms that would do what I still too small to do. I'm not up to this. He is still looking at me, more and more surprised. He is not crying. He is not afraid. He is there. I am there. We are a team. 2 adventurers. He is waiting for me to finish so he can play. I try again, and have the impression that he is guiding me. Look, Papa, you do it like this, and we get there. The nail clippings fall one by one to the floor. The right to doze. November 22nd, 9 a.m. I have just dropped Melville at daycare. He didn't cry. I moved slightly to the side so he won't see me watching him. Behind one of those window panes in the center's glass facade, it is like a big bowl where we can see the fish swimming around. Sometimes we tap on the glass to get them to notice us. He's already playing with his musical book. It is a journey in the space of a few pages around the world of instruments. The bandoneon played by a llama, the balalaika by a bear, a fox in a Venetian gondola plays the mandolin. At the daycare center, everyone knows. When I arrive each morning, every person I see wears a mask, the carnival of the dead. Even if I tell them the fable of a man who will not lose control, I cannot persuade them to take off the masks. I know that, for them, I am no longer me. I am the ghost of Helen. Melville's alive. Almost as soon as he gets there, the masks come off. He enters on tiptoe, says goodbye to me, smiles, and one burst of laughter is all it takes for the funeral faces to fall into the bottom of the toy chest. It is time for me to go home. I pick up the mail before walking upstairs. The mailbox is barely even open before a flock of envelopes escapes from it, paper in different shapes and sizes scattered on the floor around me. There are thick envelopes containing very long letters, a whole life shared with me. There are craft envelopes filled with children's drawings for Melville. There are simple postcards for a moment at least. Words have replaced the little box's usual stack of bills. I open the first envelope, read the postcard inside it as I climb the stairs. Kind words sent from the United States. At the door of the apartment, I pick up a note left by a neighbor. If you need me to help with your son, don't hesitate to ask. Neighbor across the hall. I put the letters on the living room table. The color of one of the envelopes catches my eye. An old-fashioned off-white. A missive from another age. The paper has a letterhead. The man's name is Philip. I imagine a gray-haired gentleman sitting at his writing desk. I slip inside his words. He is reacting to the message I posted on Facebook. His letter is beautiful. I feel snug, curled up in this envelope, where the sun shines. Then at the bottom of the page, like a signature, these words: You are the one who was hurt, and yet it is you who gives us courage. Watching from a distance, you always have the impression that the person who survives a disaster is a hero. I know I am not. I was struck by the hand of fate, that's all. It did not ask me what I thought first. It didn't try to find out if I was ready. It came to take Helen, and it forced me to wake up without her. Since then, I have been lost. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how to get there. You can't really count on me. I think about Philip, the author of this letter. I think about all the others who have written to me. I want to tell them that I feel dwarfed by my own words. Even if I try to convince myself that they are mine, I don't know if I will live up to them. From one day to the next, I might drown. And suddenly I am afraid. Afraid that I won't be able to meet people's expectations. Will I no longer have the right to lack courage? The right to feel angry, the right to be overwhelmed, the right to be tired, the right to drink too much and start smoking again, the right to see another woman or not to see another woman, the right not to love again, ever, not to rebuild my life, and not to want a new life, the right not to feel like playing, going to the park, telling a story, the right to make mistakes, the right to make bad decisions, the right not to have time, the right not to be present, the right not to be funny, the right to be cynical, the right to have bad days, the right to wake up late, the right to be late picking up Melville from the daycare center, the right to mess up the homemade meals I try to make, the right not to be in a good mood, the right not to reveal everything, the right not to talk about it anymore, the right to be ordinary, the right to be afraid, the right not to know, the right not to want, the right not to be capable. Tidying up her things. November 22nd, 11 p.m. Everything is in its right place. From the laundry basket, I take the last things of hers that still bear her scent. I press them against my face every night, so that I fall asleep with that small smell of eternity. But nothing else has moved. I can't. And yet the funeral is in 2 days, and I must choose the clothes she will wear. I wish she could stay naked. I wish I could slip into the coffin with her, both of us naked, and then and let them close the lid so we can finally warm each other up. My hand touches the fabrics hanging in the closet. Each material is a memory. The wool of her long coat is a walk through the forest one winter morning. Her nose is red, her eyes peer over her glasses. She has one hand in her pocket, the other in my hand. Helen lived in the present. She gave herself entirely to the moments that she lived. We had a bench that was ours in those woods. That was where I asked her to marry me. She pretended to be surprised. Under a plastic cover, a light tulle skirt, slightly off-white, time has darkened it. It was the skirt she wore the first time we kissed. Veils danced around her like butterflies caught in a net. She was dancer in a music box. This will be the one. Soon under the gravestone, surrounded by envious corpses, a little dancer will wait for her box to be opened. From above, Melville and I will hear the music play. On a shelf, the cotton of her t-shirts, relics of youthful freedom, lived for music. Led Zeppelin, the Misfits, Sleater Kinney, the Cramps, the Ramones. She wore rock and roll like a badge of honor, transcended by the riffs and the rhythms that beat inside her head. No posturing, no pretending. When Helen let you into her bubble, you felt privileged, chosen by a soul who gave herself without restraint. I was the one to whom she gave everything, the king of her world. Higher up, I grab a brightly colored shirt, happy orange, with little white cheeks. She would tie the hem around her hips, exposing the lower part of her belly that I kissed so many times. She was summer, warm, alive, sometimes crushed by an oppressive heat wave, sometimes threatened by an evening storm, but a season of freedom. In summer, the nights are short. We feel like loving, feel like loving. Right at the top, boxes belonging to a collection that was just getting started. Her formal shoes, her silhouettes, heels so high they seemed to go on forever. Leather laces up to her ankle, boots that were not made for walking. Helen was a bird woman, slender and light, and her shoes slept in their boxes most of the time. And yet I can still hear them echoing on the floorboards. One love-filled morning, half naked, when she put them on just for the pleasure of wearing them. It didn't matter that no one saw them except me. She didn't care about the rest of the world. She was the fulcrum of ours. Everything revolved around her. The moon was our planet. We were its only two inhabitants. On her dressing table, the lid is still missing from the tube of mascara. Her glasses left casually aside, awaiting her return. She thought she was playing, so she wore her makeup. She would spend hours in front of that mirror, getting ready to go out. The ritual was skillfully organized, preparing her skin, then the foundation, eyes, mouth, and finally the blush on her cheeks. It was a spectacle. And like an actor putting on her costume, she becomes someone else, the mask of light in place. The gentle, reserved young woman became a majestic lady. I loved them both equally. One lived in the other. She was the two of them together. In the bathroom, perfectly aligned in rows, are bottles of perfume. They bear the names of sensuality. Louis, Bastille, de Tour Noir. I can still taste it in my mouth when I kissed her stretched out body. Her mouth was cool, her breasts were soft, her back slightly arched, her hips accentuated. Together we learned to love. Louis was her favorite. On the bed, her clothes are placed. Excuse me. Clothes are placed as they will be when she is buried. As I spray them with her perfume, I seem to see them rise up on the lifeless fabric. Little by little, her body appears. Her fragile shoulders, her legs, her hands, her buttocks, her breasts. She is there, all mine. I lie next to that invisible body. Her breath caresses my neck. She embraces me, puts her hand on my face, tells me that everything will be all right. This is the last time we will be able to love each other. Letter from Melville. November 24th, 4 p.m. The day of the funeral. Melville is too young to come with me. I am alone before a swarm of sadness. I don't want to talk. I've already said too much. So I lend my words to he who does not yet have any, my voice to he whose voice cannot be heard. I no longer am. I am him. Mama, I am writing you this note to tell you that I love you. I miss you. Papa is helping me because I'm still very young. Don't worry about him. I'll look after him. I'll take him for walks. We play with my little cars. We read stories. We take baths together. And we have lots of hugs. It's not the same as it was when you were there, but it's okay. He tells me everything will be all right, but I can tell if he's sad. I'm sad too. The other night, we looked at photos of you on the phone. We listened to your song too. We cried a lot. Papa told me you won't be able to come and see me anymore. He also told me that we were a team now, the two of us, a team of adventurers. I liked that idea because Papa was really smiling when he said it, because recently when he smiled at me, it's as if he were crying. Papa told me that we'll get by, and that when things aren't going well, he will think about you because you'll be there with us. He asked all your friends to write me a letter that I'll be able to read when I'm older. He told me we weren't the only ones who loved you, but that no one else loved you as much as we did. He also told me that children do not have memories before they are 3, but that the 17 months I spent with you will make me the man I will become. There have been lots of things happening around us recently. I think it's partly because of Papa, but he didn't do it on purpose. There are ladies who stop us in the street to say hello. The telephone never stops ringing, and I get presents from people I don't even know. I tell him it doesn't matter, that you always loved us as we were, and that you would have forgiven him for all of that. You have to forgive me too, because I couldn't be here today. You know me. I don't like it when there are too many grown-ups. And Papa told me it took a long time and it was cold. But Papa also promised me that we would come to see you tomorrow, the two of us. Okay, well, I can't wait to see you tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, and all the days after that. I miss you, Mama. I love you. Melville. The end of the story. November 24th, 10 p.m. I started writing this book the day after I posted the letter on Facebook, maybe even that same evening. Whenever Melville is in daycare, I sit on my computer to disgorge all these words that live inside my head. Like the neighbors upstairs who listen to music too loud, I type them on my keyboard to quiet them, so they will stop fighting and let me sleep. As soon as they appear on the screen, I look at them like foreign bodies. I read them to understand them. I reread them to understand myself, and end up loving them. I watch them from afar, holding hands. Sometimes I try to call out to them, but my voice doesn't reach them. The words don't belong to me anymore. I had to write quickly. I am the one who loves Helen, not the one who loved her. Before death drops the curtain down on the person I was without a final encore, I am still this naive fool prevented from falling by hope. Who knows what I'll become tomorrow when my grief has let me fall, like a brief, fleeting love, an all-consuming passion that is just passing by, a vivid reflection of the love that shone so brightly. It is beautiful, intense. I hold it tight against me, but I know that it has almost left me already. In search of another lover to torment, it goes on its way, abandoning me, its sad traveling companion, mourning. I spot its mark, a gray stain that appears on my side. I have already seen it grow in the same place a few years ago, when I lost my mother. This one is darker. It spreads faster, too. It is only a question of days, weeks now. I am besieged. It covers almost the whole of my stomach. I no longer feel like doing anything. Eating is torture. Soon it will insinuate itself into my chest, press against my thorax, prevent me from breathing, penetrating what remains of my heart. It will discharge its death-colored venom through all of my veins and arteries. My legs will no longer be able to hold me up. My knees will lock in place, and my feet will turn to clay. It will drag down on my shoulders to make them slump, and I won't be able to lift my arms. My body will abandon me, but there will still be my mind, given a suspended sentence, so I can watch myself sink. But I am not afraid. I am waiting for it. I know it. Sometimes I try to convince myself to be patient, but that gray stain is remorseless, meticulous. From the base of my neck, it will rise at last up my throat, its grip growing tighter and tighter. My nose will no longer be able to recognize the smell of a memory. My eyes will see only what is in front of them. I would have liked my first book to be a story, not mine. I would have liked to love the words without fearing them. There have been times when, as someone else whose opinion I have sought has read out loud the words I typed on my computer, it seemed to me as if I were discovering those words, hearing them for the first time. I was almost surprised to find out how difficult life was going to be for those two little guys. I wanted to help them. I loved them too. The pair of them, with their ladybugs and their supermarket meals and daycare ladies who will never replace Mama. I couldn't tell a story that was not how things appear to me. I have no beginning, no end, and every hour overwhelms my entire being. My present must become past, and I drift through this every day, life without time, through these days without hours. Since Helen's death, there is no tale to tell. It's the end of the story. There are only these instants that rise up, taking me by surprise. It was 3 moments I had to write about, Polaroids of a life that has not yet gotten its breath back. I wait that evening when my face already darkens. I press my still pink lips to my son's forehead as he lies in bed. One last kiss from the man I was, the one who loved his mother like no other, the one who saw him born, eyes opened to the world, the one who dreamed of a life where they would take the time to love each other, the last moment of our life before. When he falls asleep that night, I will abandon myself completely to darkness. Tomorrow we will go to see his mother. This book is almost finished. It will not heal me. No one can be healed of death. All they can do is tame it. Death is a wild animal, sharp-fanged. I'm just trying to build a cage to keep it locked in. It is there beside me, drooling as it waits to devour me. The bars of the cage that protect me are made of paper. When I turn off the computer, the beast is released. Mama is there. November 25th, 7:45 a.m. Melville has just guzzled down the contents of his bottle. He hasn't lost his appetite. He sits between my legs and we savor the early morning calm in the still, warm bed. We both try to prolong the pleasure. I softly hum songs to him. He lists all the elements of my face, Papa's nose, Papa's mouth. Where are Papa's ears? Neither of us wants to leave the comfort of that morning. We have to get ready, get washed. Before a shower was just a shower, hot water, soap, shampoo. This morning it is an adventure, and Melville is the hero, and the villain of the story is the showerhead. A strange metal face that spits hot, smoking liquid from its many mouths, making Papa its prisoner. Melville must do everything he can to liberate me from this curse. He paces around outside the bathroom, coming up with a plan of attack. Leaving the door open enables him to combat the smoke, which flees instantly. Melville, close the door, I'm cold. First victory. Putting his hands, his arms, his hair, anything he can under the water seems to accelerate Papa's liberation. You're going to get all wet. Get out of the bathroom. Second victory. Going away and being silent is the only way to be called back into the battle. Melville, where are you, sweetie? Come here. Third victory. But his secret weapon is the picture book. The metal snake stops spitting as soon as it goes in the bathtub. No, don't put the book in the water. The fatal blow is delivered. The battle is over. When I break down, I lose it. Tears flood my face. Today we are going to his mother's grave. Yesterday, Melville did not go to the funeral. Too cold, too long, too tough for a little boy. Anyway, this is a moment that we must go through alone. Before going to the funeral, I told him everything, that his mama was going to be buried, that our memories would live with us, but that her body would remain down there. I also promised him that we would go to see her the next day. And yet today, the closer the moment draws, the more afraid I am. Afraid that he won't understand, afraid that he'll understand everything, afraid that I haven't prepared him properly, afraid that I've told him too much. But we have to go. His eyes like two marbles. He looks at me forgivingly. He knows it is not the wet book that is making me cry. He tries to take the burden of all I can no longer carry. But you're too little for that, my love. A wet hug is enough to reassure him, to reassure me. We have to get ready. In an intimate silence, we go through the stages of our morning routine, one by one, diaper, clothes, shoes, jacket, hug. He knows that is not just an ordinary day. I bring the photo of her and him. I will place it on the headstone so that he understands that Mama is there. They are beautiful, even though there is a drawing of a rocket on it. The pacifier does not leave Melville's mouth. His head leans gently toward her so his cheek touches hers. Just the faintest touch, enough to feel her presence. She looks serene, smiling inwardly, eyes trusting. The time is ours. We are on vacation. Closing the door of the apartment that day is like leaving a life behind us. From now on, it will be strange to us. A place where we no longer live. A place where it feels as if we never lived. Like a little house inside us, full of familiar smells, rituals, and habits. A place we love, a place we felt at ease. But we can never go in there again. We knocked, scratched at the door, tried to smash it down, but Helen is locked in, alone in our empty house. The key is with her, buried in Division X of Montmartre Cemetery. The weather is mild today. Cloud scatters and sunlight pours down on the cemetery like honey flowing from the sky. Only yesterday was blood that fell from the clouds, an icy blood that pounded in time with our footsteps against the crowd of umbrellas that filled the wide path. Today the funeral procession is over. It is toward our new life that we walk. Melville holds my hand. His head barely reaches the middle of my thigh, but he looks so big. He has fun jumping in a puddle left by the rain. Little by little my fear is diluted in the water that noisily splashes as he stamps his feet in it. The game is his weapon. The next bout of silliness, his horizon. A child is not weighed down by grown-up things. His innocence is our reprieve. Left after the central square, that's where our tomb is. We approach it, we are there. My whole life lies below my feet, held in a few square feet of stone, cold and mud. It's a small thing in life. I put the photograph in the middle of the white flowers that strangle the gravestone. Like a swarm of stars hung in the night sky, a moonless night locked in her vault. She will never appear. Mama is there. Suddenly Melville lets go of my hand. He climbs on the gravestone, crushing the roses and the lilies that are no match for his determination. I'm afraid he is looking for her. He keeps going through the jungle of regrets, grabs the photo, takes it with him, then comes back to me and holds my hand. I know he has found her. He wants to leave right away. No hanging around. He wants to take Mama back with us. I don't resist. He wants arms around him. I hold him tight against me. She is with us. There are three of us. There will always be three of us. On our way out, I see the puddle. I hop into it. He laughs. And I think that'll do it for today.